Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Lions Squad. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, and I'm going to give you my view on the Lions squad. Overall, I think Warren Gatland has got it there or thereabouts. He's picked 41 players, which is obviously due to the attritional nature that we're going to see on this Lions tour. And if you go through the players, whilst I know there's been outcry in Scotland at the lack of players selected, and there are a few players such as Joe Launchbury who people who think should be on the tour. If you look at actually who's in there, there are no real glaring players who you go, that guy should not be touring with the Lions. He is not Lions quality. I say there are personal choices that you could make around one or two of them, but on the whole, it's there or thereabouts. It's not the 41 I would have picked, or you would have picked probably, but you can see why he's gone for different players. For example, Jonathan Davis or Lee Halfpenny are two players I wouldn't personally have taken on tour, but I can see why he's done it. They're players who have been there, they've done that. He knows if he has to call on them, they will do a job for him, and so and he also knows he knows the players, he knows how they talk, how to communicate with them. He doesn't have to worry about learning how to talk to them. And that is going to be one of the reasons why there are only two Scotland players there. There isn't a Scotland coach on the touring party, so there isn't someone who is there to argue their case in the selection meetings. But also it means that when they're on tour, if Gatland has a hard message or he's not getting out of them what he wants, he hasn't got someone to turn to say, okay, how do I communicate with this guy? How do we get the message across to him? Can you go and talk to him about this? That'll be one of the reasons why we don't see that many Scotland players in there. When Gatland was talking about picking his coaches, one of the things he mentioned about was continuity and having guys he knew how to talk with, who would be on the same page from the get-go. And that applies to a certain degree with some of the players he's selected as well. The other point around that, and the sort of the mixture of the nations, is around combinations. Now, Green and Gold Rugby had a great interview on their podcast this week with an ex-rugby player who's into the analytics, and he was talking about connectivity of squads. And he's basically taken what we know intuitively about continuity of selection around picking combinations, and he's put analytics behind it, and is proving that this is something that you need to have. I mean, he was talking about it from an Australian rugby setup point of view, not from a Lions point of view, but it's something we kind of know and get. So if we think of the other famous sort of representative side or invitational side, it's obviously the Barbarians. And when the Barbarians get put together, we know they can blow hot and cold, and that's because of the lack of the players don't know each other very well and their playing styles, and hence they can get blown out of the water like they did against the Lions in Hong Kong. Was that 4 years ago now, or was it 8 years ago? I can't remember now. So that can happen. I think it was 4 years ago. So that's going to be part of why we are seeing big blocks of players. Yep, thank you. Yeah, it was 4 years ago that we have big blocks of players from different nations. Is to have that connectivity within the matchday squads. So we can probably expect to see Murray, Sexton, Henshaw as a group picked for the test side. And that way, you've got players who know how to play with each other and know what each other's going to be, where they're going to be, and that side of things. It may even go out as far as Jared Payne as well. Obviously, he's been flying below the radar because of being injured, but we'll see how he goes on tour. The only question I really have is around the balance of positional picks on the squad. So he's gone for 41 players rather than 37, so that's 4 extra players than we're expecting. Now, if we look at where those are, we've got one in the back row amongst the loose forwards, and that's to be expected. That is going to be an attritional position. The players are going to need to rotate a lot. They're not going to be able to play back up games from a weekend game to a midweek game very often. So I'm not surprised we have the additional player in there. We then have 2 extra centres and 1 extra outside back or winger. To me, that feels a bit unbalanced. Do we really need 6 centres or 6 players for 2 positions in the centres? Do we really need 7 players for the 3 positions, the wingers and fullback, whereas we only have 5 second rowers or locks? So to my mind, I think we have probably got 1 extra winger than we really need on tour or centre, and we probably light a bit in the locks. I think the locks will also be another attritional position for the team. So those to me, that to me is the only question mark I have around the squad, is around that balance. I think we have perhaps one too many backs and not enough forwards. One of the things we might be seeing around the selection of backs, so one of the points that was made on the Maul Over podcast was that we will be able to know the style of play Gatland's going to play by the squad he picks. Now, by picking 6 centres and 7 wingers, it does leave him much more flexibility as to how he plays and how wide he plays with those players. Yes, we might see North, Seymour, Hogg, but also we could equally see Watson, Nell, Hogg in the back 3, which would be a very different style of play to those 3 wingers, or those 3 back 3s. And similarly, he can do something different in the centres. I mean, we could have Henshaw Payne, or we could have JJ Elliott Daly. Unlikely, but it could happen. And that would, those 2 the different combinations mean it's a little bit more difficult to predict exactly how it's going to play. Obviously, I think we all expect him to play Warren ball or Gatland ball, but at least there is options there now to see something else happen if he feels like it, or if he feels he needs to do that. So those are kind of my thoughts on the Lions squad. He's kept his options open. He hasn't made any glaring mistakes. Yes, we would all choose it slightly differently. And yep, he's gone down what he said when he was doing the coaches around continuity, saying he has very little time to get these things going, so combinations and communication and being there, done that before, does weigh in your favour when it comes to selections. So thank you very much for listening. If you have enjoyed this, please do share it with your friends, or give the old thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Don't forget to sign up for my weekly newsletter. The link's above in Twitter. It's down below in the notes on YouTube. And I'm always up for a good rugby chat, so do get in touch and have a chat. Enjoy whatever rugby you're watching this weekend. I think I've got Cairns Waratahs tonight, which should be fun. So see you on Twitter for that one.